Hey butterflies. So in this video, I want to talk about 10 years in 10 minutes. It's a series that I am doing basically just to go over things that have happened in my coaching and also in my life in these last 10 years that I have been a certified life coach for moms. And so this particular video, I want to talk about the detours that changed me. And so, have you ever been praying and waiting for God for answers so long that you start wondering, like, did I do something? Should I do something? God, are you listening? Am I listening? Like, God, are you silent? Am I missing something? Am I just not hearing him? And so I've had those conversations with God. And so recently, as I said, this is something where I'm looking back 10 years. And so in looking in the last 10 years of my life, I actually wrote out a timeline. Have you ever written the timeline of your life? Not something that would go in your obituary, but like things that have happened in your life year after year after year. Have you ever done that? If you haven't, I want to challenge you today to give it a try, because I was very surprised by some things, and I realized something. And what I realized is that so basically I thought I was waiting on God to move in an area in my life, but he was moving in many areas that I wasn't even looking at. So let's go back to 2021. I'm going to take you on a little, go back with me. So 2021, I moved. My daughter graduated from high school and she went to college in another state. And look, I'm looking at my paper. I had to write this down. Then in 2022, I moved again. And then I moved again in the spring. And within that short time, from 2021 to 2022, I changed my home 3 times. My daughter went away to college, and I basically became an empty nester. Life was changing. And the reason why I was moving so much during that time is because I was being obedient to God. And I was doing what he told me to do. So long story short, where we were moving when my daughter was in where we were living, when my daughter was in high school, towards the end of her high school, the owners decided they wanted to sell. I didn't feel I was ready to buy. And then I was looking for places. This was during COVID. I said 2021. This was during COVID. And so God told me to go bigger in the amount of rent that I said I wanted to pay. And so I had my realtor helping me. And so she increased the amount of rent, which gave me a wider range of places to live. And so the particular place that God led me to was in a city that was not on my radar. And so because it was a brand new development, I had to move multiple times while waiting for it to be ready. Okay, so that's 2021 to 2022. My life was changing. Then in 2023, God told me to take a break from coaching. Coaching business was not bringing in revenue. It was not something that I thought it was going to be or was supposed to be by that time, because I started in 2016. So it is 2023. And so basically, as I am moving along in my life, when I take this pause from coaching, I'm still working in corporate. So God has me looking at what I am doing now outside of coaching. And I was still working, but outside of coaching, I was working in corporate. And so in working in corporate, you get those little increases in like 2% every year. And so what I did was I was like, okay, it's time for a change. I decided to go into project management, found out that I've been doing it already. So there are some things that you are already qualified for that you don't realize you're qualified for it. And I didn't realize that until God had me take this break from one thing that I thought was going to be a big thing, or that I thought was going to be the main thing or the main form of income. And so he changed it. And so I ended up becoming a project manager, which allowed me to increase my salary from where I was. So that was 2023. I'm growing in a season in my career and not growing as an entrepreneur or as a coach. And so 2024, I come back to coaching, but I wasn't sure in what way. So I was waiting. Remember, I talked about this waiting when you're praying and you're waiting on God to give you the answer for so long that you start wondering, like, God, are you listening? What is it that I'm supposed to be doing? And so what happened is, while I'm waiting, I'm getting answers to something that I wasn't even looking for answers to. But I didn't even realize it at the time because I was so focused on waiting for the answer for coaching. What is this going to be? God, I know you told me to be a life coach. I know that this is in me. I know this is what I'm supposed to be doing. My thought was that it was going to be full time, but that wasn't his plan. So basically, what ended up happening is my life was still moving. So let's go into summer 2024. I move again. Because at this point, I'm like, I don't want to rent anymore. My extended lease was up. So I was like, I don't want to rent anymore. And so what ends up happening is I'm moving with my mom. My daughter's still in college. And I had a timeline. Of like 6 months. But God had a timeline of 3 months. And so I became a homeowner in that same year. In 2025. So all this moving from 2021 to 2025 was a setup, but a good setup to get me to be a homeowner. This particular area that I said that wasn't on my radar, I saw my home being built and I was drawn to this area for this reason. And these are the detours that have changed me. And so when I think of this timeline from 2016 of what I thought it was going to be 2021, 22, 23, 24, 25. And so in 2025, God gave me the direction to become a life coach for all moms because married moms were already following me on my page as a single mom life coach. And then, as I said before, when I first started in the previous video, when I first started coaching in 2016, I was coaching women. Most of the women were moms. And so I am sitting here and I hope that you are picking up what I'm putting down and thinking about your life because I'm sitting here focused on one thing, but God is moving in all areas of my life. Now, we know he's omnipresent. We know that he can do multiple things at one time. But when we're praying and we're waiting for an answer to that one particular prayer, sometimes we can miss what he's actually doing. And so I started being a coach for all moms in 2025. And then fall of 2025, I get baptized and I do a total surrender to God. And that was just something that was, I don't even know the words for it. And then in 2026, this year, I get another position in corporate that has elevated me even more than where I was. And so that wasn't my prayer. Now, my prayer, yes, it was to advance in my career, to have some direction, because I've been with this company for some time. And yes, I wanted to move and, move meaning move up the ladder. But that wasn't my main prayer. My main prayer was, God, guide me with this coaching that you have put inside of me for me to do for your glory. But he had other plans. And so my plan was to be a full-time entrepreneur by now. That's not his plan. Now, not saying I won't ever be, but for 2026, I hate to date this video, but for 2026, that's not the plan. And so it doesn't look like the map or plan that I have for my life. And so I still don't know exactly what God is doing, and you still don't know exactly what God is doing. But one thing I can tell you is detours will change your life. They can be, a detour can be looked at as a roadblock, as a stumbling block. It can be looked at as a distraction, but it's not called a destination change or a new route for a reason. It's called a detour. So in a detour, the destination is still the same. And so I don't know what you've been waiting for or what you've been going through in the last 10 years of your life, but I want to remind you that God is still working and to look beyond what you see. And that is something that I started with my coaching business. I had created Look Beyond What You See, inspirational cards. And I did different videos on looking beyond motherhood, and you probably see them on YouTube and here on on YouTube and on Instagram and other platforms. But I was looking beyond what I saw in motherhood, meaning that there was more to life than what I was experiencing. But I wasn't looking beyond what I saw in my life path, or the path of my life, and the changes that were happening in my life. So like I said, if you're in a detour right now, if you're praying, if you're waiting, if you're wondering what you're supposed to be doing, I would tell you, don't only look at what you're waiting for, but I want you to look and see what's happening right now today and what has happened, and write out your timeline for your life and look at all the things that God has done, and you'll be able to see, I'm pretty sure you'll be able to see the ways that he has moved in other areas while you were waiting for one particular area. And then when he finally gets to that one particular area, how your life is different, how you are different. And so you also may realize that even though you feel like you're standing still, you're actually moving forward. And so in moving forward, I want you to think about looking beyond what you see in the right now, so that you really can focus on what God is doing in your life right now. And so I want to say thank you for listening and watching this particular video. In the third video for this series, 10 years in 10 minutes, we'll talk about another topic. And so I hope to see you in the next video.